Today on Capechi's Corner, we're going to look at linear systems word problems. So let's take a look at the first one. It says a collection of nickels and quarters is worth $12.30. Nickels and quarters. There are 66 coins in all. How many of each type of coins are there? What I like to do is I like to list what I know on the left-hand side in a column. It just makes things a little easier than instead of going back and looking at the paragraph of the word problem. So I did this ahead of time. If you want to pause it and work on your own, you're welcome to do that. So our first equation we're going to look at is the quantity equation. So we know how much money we have. We know how many coins. We're going to make N equal to nickels and Q equal to quarters. We know the money value of them. You can use any variables you want, X or Y, as long as you're labeling off to the side what each variable stands for. So quantity. So if I add the number of nickels plus the number of quarters, I'm going to end up with 66 coins in all. Now, in dealing with money, it's going to be 5 cents, right? 0.05 is 5 cents. 5 cents for each nickel plus 25 cents or 0.25 for each quarter. And the total money amount was $12.30. Now, at this point, you can use substitution or elimination. Does not matter, whichever one you prefer. Because I have a money amount and I'm dealing with decimals, I'm going to stick with just doing substitution. So I'm going to bring Q to the other side. You can solve for Q if you like. In this case, I'm solving for N plus 66. Now, in my other equation, wherever I see an N, I'm going to substitute this value. So I have 0.05. Not 0.5, let's fix that. So I have 0.05 times negative Q plus 66 plus 0.25 Q, and I know that is equal to $12.30. Now I'm going to distribute this 0.05, so that gives me negative 0.05 Q plus 3.3 plus 0.25 Q, and that's equal to 12.30. Now I'm going to combine my like terms, my negative 0.05 Q and my 0.25 Q, and I end up with 0.2 Q plus 3.3 is equal to 12.30. Now I'm going to bring that 3.3 to the other side, so I'll have to subtract. So I end up with 2.2 Q is equal to 9. Divide both sides by 0.2. And I know Q, which is the number of quarters, is 45. So I have 45 quarters. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to substitute that in so I can find out the number of nickels. So I have negative 45, right? I'm going to substitute what my value is for Q, plus 66. So N is equal to 21. So I know I have 21 nickels and 45 quarters. Now, to check it, you can always go back, right? Add the coins together. I should get 66. Take 5 cents times each nickel plus 25 cents times each quarter, and you should get $12.30. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. This time we're going to talk about a test. So it says you're taking a test worth 130 points. There are a total of 50 questions, some worth 5 points and some are worth 2 points. How many 5-point questions are there? All right, so I make my list, 130 points, 50 questions. Now, again, this time I'm going to use X and Y. X is going to equal the number of 5-point questions I have. Y is the number of 2-point. Again, it could be whatever you want as long as you identify what each variable stands for. So the quantity is when I add them together, I know that I'm going to have 50 questions total. Now, the other thing I can group together is my points, right? So I have 5 points for every question that is worth 5 points, and then 2 points per question, and that gives me 130 points total. Now, again, I could use substitution if I like. In this case, I'm going to use elimination. I'm going to multiply everything by negative 2. So that gives me negative 2x minus 2y is equal to negative 100, which gives me 3x, right? That zeroes out or eliminated, that's what I want, is equal to 30. So x is equal to 10. Now I can go back and substitute, and I realize that y is equal to 40, but the question's just asking for 5-point questions. So that's why it's a good idea to label what you want, because I know I'm just looking for the value of x, which is 10. So I can say there are 10 5-point questions. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. In this particular problem, it says Hannah orders 5 hamburgers and 3 drinks for $21. That's Hannah. John, on the other hand, he orders 4 hamburgers, 5 drinks for a total of $22. Write a system of equations to find the cost. Now, again, this is telling me what I'm looking for, the cost of a hamburger and the cost of a drink. Okay? So, Hannah, this kind of breaks down. Hannah is going to be grouped together, and so is John. And that's going to be important. Okay, so what I did here is I'm going to let H equal the cost of the hamburger, and I'm going to let D equal the cost of the drink. Now, with this particular problem, it's broken down a lot easier with looking at what Hannah purchased and what John purchased, because we do know how many of each was purchased. We know that already. We just want to know the cost of each. So with Hannah, 5 hamburgers she purchased times whatever the cost of the hamburger is, plus 3 times whatever the drink costs, and she spent a total of $21. Now let's look at John. 4 hamburgers times whatever they're worth, and then 5 drinks times whatever they're going to cost us, and then 22. That's how much he spent, $22. Now again, in looking at this, I could use a decimal if I wanted to solve for substitution, but instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use elimination. So I'm going to try to get rid of my h's or eliminate. So I'm going to multiply this by 4, and I'm going to multiply John's by -5. That way, my h I'm going to get in Hannah's, when I multiply by 4, I'm going to get positive 20h. And when I do John's equation, that's going to end up with negative 20h, which is what I want. So let's keep going with Hannah. 4 times 3d gives me 12d. 4 times 21 gives me 84. Now I'm going to look at John's equation. -5 times 4h gives me -20h, which is what I want. I want opposite coefficients. So they'll eliminate. And then I have 5 times -5 gives me -5d is equal to -5 times 22 is -110. So that zeroes out or is eliminated. I'm left with -13d is equal to -26. So d is equal to 2. Then I can substitute it into either equation to find out the value for h. I'll use the equation for John. So I have 4h plus 5 times 2. I know the value of d is 2 is equal to 22. So that gives me 4h plus 10 is equal to 22. 4h is equal to 12. So h is equal to 3. So now again, I'm looking at the cost. So I know that each drink is $2. $2 per drink, and then it is going to be $3 per hamburger, and that's what they're asking for. Okay, let's take a look at our last one. The sum of 2 numbers is 31. So we know, remember, the sum means to add. The greater number means equal, 5 more than the lesser number. So let's take a look at that. What are the 2 numbers? So I'm just going to use x or y. In this case, it says one of the numbers is greater and one's lesser. So I'm going to make x as the greater number and y is going to be the lesser number. So I know when I add them together, the sum, I'm going to get 31. Okay, now let's take a look at that second equation. That's the tricky one. The greater number is, okay, so x is the greater number. So the greater number is 5 more than the lesser number. So let's take a look at that again. The greater number is 5 more than the lesser number. So that equation looks pretty good. So in this problem, x is already by itself, so I'm going to use substitution. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to substitute in y plus 5. So I'm going to go over here and do that. So I get y plus 5 plus y is equal to 31 Combine my y's. That gives me 2y plus 5 is equal to 31. And so then 2y is equal to 26. Y is equal to 13. Now I go back to this equation here. It actually doesn't matter. I'll use this one. X is equal to 13 plus 5. So X is equal to 18. So the question says, what are the two numbers? And I'm simply going to say the numbers are, and it doesn't matter which way I write them, 13 and 18. So I can go back. It says when I add them together, I get 31, which is true. The greater number, which is 18, is 5 more than the lesser number, which that is. So I'm all set. Okay, thanks so much for stopping by today. You have a great day.